Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat berjumpa. Thank you for watching. Now, we learn in the 8th chapter. Chapter 8. What the learning objective in chapter 8? In chapter 8, we will learn about the translation and interpreting. Well, that is very important to learn both of it in accounting major. Yes, translation, if you're making, for example, financial report in Bahasa, and then your investor maybe came from or another country, you have to make the translation in your financial report. That's why in this chapter, students have to make practice, then have to able to translate every maybe sentence from Bahasa to English and then English to Bahasa Indonesia. That is the purpose of the chapter in the translation. The next is about the interpreting. If you have a good skill from your English, maybe your company leader or maybe your country manager or maybe your investor, they cannot speak in Bahasa. If you can speak English and Bahasa, you can be interpreting, you can interpret, you can be interpreter to your boss or your leader in your company or your investor. That is why in 8th chapter we will learn about the translation and interpreter. Okay, let's go for the next chapter. Let's check it out. Okay, now we will learn about the translation. The first translation. What is the translation? That is the question. Translation is the process, right? The translation is the process to transport from one language to another language, from the source language to the target language. Okay, for example, you have to make translation from English to Bahasa Indonesia. You have to know about the source language and the target language. Yes, the source language in Bahasa, you have to make the translation from the English to Bahasa. Okay, that is why the important for translation. Okay, so there are so many kind of the technique of translation. First is borrowing. Borrowing means is the taking of the word directly, okay, taking different word directly from one language into another language without translation. Many English word borrow into other language. Okay, first the target language. The target language has no generally used. It means every translation has equality, has equivalent. Yes, and then we have to know about the target of the language. For example, the first man made satellite were in Indonesia. So far, time they were knowing in English is Indonesia. So Indonesia is the country, but the people of Indonesia that called Indonesian, right? That is borrowing process. Okay, next is the source of language. Source of language. The source language word sound is very different and more specific, more fashionable maybe, and exotic than anymore. Right? And then to retain, it means some source language you have to use it using this another language. For example, from the recent issue of the Guardian newspaper. Okay, you have to know about the Guardian paper and then you know what was happening. Okay, and then next technique is about the literal translation. What the literal translation is? Literal translation is using translation word by word. For example, in English, White House, how to translate it in bahasa? White House, it means putih rumah atau rumah putih. Okay, if you want to make in translation about the White House, look at the context in the sentence or the topic. If the context is about in America, the White House is not the real White House, but in bahasa they can translate like rumah putih, because in bahasa Indonesia rumah putih they can translate by White House, but that is why the word by word is not good to translate. Look at the context of the translation. If the translation for White House, it means in United States is gedung putih, right? It is very different. Not building white or white building. That is very different and very unique technique to translate. Okay, let's go for the next. Okay, another technique for the translation is oblique translation technique. Oblique, it means there are used a structural and conceptual. Yes, you have to remember that is very structural and very heavy concept. Okay, and then every concept has elements, and every element from the source language to target language you have to remember it. For example, transposition. In this technique is about transposition. From, is this the process where the part and speech change their sequence when they are translated? It means you have to use the transposition from the source language to target language. Transposition from one word in the source language to one word to target language. Okay, is it clear? Okay, if you clear, next is modulation. What the modulation is? Modulation consists of using a phrase. Okay? Modulation consists to using a phrase to one source from the source language to the target language. Okay, and then reformulation of equivalence. Equivalent, it means here you have to express something in completely different way from the example. Translation idiom or translation phrase, that is very different to translate. In the last before this learning, we just discussed about the idiom. So that in idiom, that is very different meaning. Okay, next is about the adaptation. Adaptation, it means based on the source language to the target language, we have to adopt the situation, condition, and the meaning. Also the context is. So that's very important. You have to know how to adapt your translation from source language to target language. Okay, that's clear? Okay, next part is about the compensation. Compensation, it means in general term, compensation can be used when something cannot translate. You can use the you can use compensation that used only for they cannot translate it. For example, rambutan in bahasa, in English is rambutan. There are no the fruit with the hair, that is very different. Fruit with the hair, it's not rambutan in bahasa. right? And then durian. In English also they can translate in durian. Yes? Okay, that is why the sample of the conversation for the translation. Okay, next technique is about the calcu or loan translation. It's a phrase borrowed from the another ringgit to another translate literal word from word. It's very different. The first is word by word, and then next is word for word. That is the key using for calcu or loan transportation. Loan transportation calcu is about the word for word. That is the key. Okay, this is clear for you? It's clear. Next, we're going to the next part. Let's check it out. Hi. Now, this is the sample of translation. Translation from Bahasa to English or English to Bahasa. Let's check it out. First is about the in Bahasa, mobil merah dikendarainya sangat cepat. You can translate it to be the red car was driving so fast. Okay, so this is another sample for the translation Bahasa to English and English to Bahasa. You can check this out. Let's check it out.